Okay, hello once again. Good day, my dear students and hard coders. Today we are going to continue our series. So last time uh, we put our credentials here in our C# variables, and if we log in, if we have uh, wrong or incorrect credentials, you say your username and password is incorrect, and it will clear the fields, right? But if your credential is correct, it will go to the main form. But the variables, the credential that we've been using is here in our C#, not from database. So now we are going to uh, create a credential into our database and try to get that data that would serve as our account or credential now. So let's start.
Live life golden, yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see it shine, cause we're golden.
Okay, so first I'll be assuming that you have your SAMP already installed, and just look at the description. I pasted there the link for the SAMP installer and the MySQL connector for you to have an access to your database. Okay, so you need a connector for your C# to connect to the SAMP. Okay, let's wait for it. So making sure that the Apache and MySQL are running, and then click the admin. Once you click the admin, it will redirect you to this control panel or in this server. Okay. So here we are going to create a database and table, okay, so that we will try to insert the data manually here in our database and try to get that into our C# to serve as our credential, okay, not just the local variables in our C#. So to do that, click new, and then here in the database name we will use the naming convention. If this is a database, it should be DB, okay, DB underscore the name of your database. So for example, we are going to create a database for your pharmacy, okay. So create. So here inside the DB folders, because I have lots of DB database, so it's being grouped into one folder. So that's the good thing about this SAMP, because by itself it will organize all the database that has same prefixes. Okay, so here we have the DB pharmacy. If we click this one, we have the create table. Now for the naming convention for the table, it should be TB underscore and the name of your table. Okay, let's say for example in our pharmacy we have our products, right? So no, we need to create first a credential for this database. So for example, this would be TB accounts, okay, an accounts table for the accounts. So for example, we have user, we have an admin level, user level, just like that. Okay, so for now we are going to use the TB accounts for us to have an example how to get the data and validate that one from this database. Okay, so here after you click the name of your table, here we have the list and the fields of your rows. So here in our columns, so these are the columns, by the way, not rows. Okay, so these are the columns. So for, the very first column in our table should be an ID. So every table should have an ID first before any columns. Okay, so for the naming convention for this is just take the first three words in your name, in your table name, and then that would be act. For example, in this table, this is account, so the first three letters should be input, and then underscore ID. So make it sure that since this is an ID, we want this to be a primary key. Okay, so just click this auto increment AI, so that every time we have new data, it will automatically increment the number of your rows. Okay, there's no need to input there's no need to type in the act ID column, because it is automatically incremented whenever we have new data. Okay, click go. Then after that one, for a typical account, so we have user, password, and full name, right? So let's have this app username, ACC password, and then we have ACC full name, right? So for the data type for this, we want this username to be a varchar, variable character, also our password, and also our full name. So for the length, we approximately put this 50, 50. So just to have an allowance, maybe you have a very long name. Okay? So save. Okay, so after this one, click the browse, and then we don't have any data yet. Okay, so for now, we will insert a data manually. Okay, not the coding yet, because we will just try to put some data first, and then try to get that from can try to get that using a C#, okay, from the database. Okay, so you will just have to manually insert. Though if you already know how to use the syntaxes, you can just click the SQL and do some syntax for inserting. Okay, but for now we will do it manually. Okay, so let's say for example I have username Maki 123, then password is admin, then Mark, okay, and my full name, and then we also have Amy 123, password is Pusak, then full name Emiliana. Right, so click go, and then it will automatically insert that in our table. So if we click browse, we already have the data. Okay, so username and password equals a full name. Now we will try to get those data and try to check if we can validate that one into our C#. So now we're done with the database. We will now go back to our C# to create a class for database operation. Okay, so every database operation, if you want to insert, delete, update, or search any data, we want that to be inside one class, separate class, for us to reuse all those functions and then to keep neat into our code, because we don't want to be redundant. Okay, so to add a class, just just tap your keyboard or hold Control Shift and then A for adding items. Here in the add new item, click the class. Do not double click because it will automatically add that. Okay, just click that, making sure that you are selecting class. And then here in the name, we will name this database operation. Okay, click add. And then there you have your database operation class. Now here in our database operation class, before we proceed, we want to add the reference of our connector, SQL connector, because if you don't have that one, we cannot connect to our database. Okay, and also we cannot import the MySQL that they, oh, why do I have, oh, sorry, I already add the reference for this. So let's try to remove the reference, the MySQL, this one. Let's say for example you did not add yet the reference. Okay, so if we don't have the reference, yes, you will encounter this error. You cannot search the MySQL library, okay, because we don't have the reference yet, we don't have the connector yet. Okay, let's assume that we don't have that one yet. Okay, now making sure, I am also assuming that you already installed the MySQL connector. If you already installed the MySQL connector, just try to click the reference and then add reference. Then here in the extension option, try to scroll down and look for MySQL data. Check that one and then click OK. Okay, so once you have this, you can now use the MySQL library, right? MySQL data.mysql plug. Now if we have our library imported, we can now call our connections, commands, and data readers. Okay, so first we need to create a variable for MySQL connection. We will name this con equals new MySQL connection, open close parentheses. Now inside this parentheses, we will put some parameters. First is server equals what should be the server, since it is by default we are using localhost. And then for the separator, just type in the semicolon, and then right after this, the next parameter should be the database, and then the database is equal to your database here. So making sure you are typing the correct spelling. Okay, so DB pharmacy, so DB underscore pharmacy, and then again semicolon for the user. By default this is root. Okay, so we already have our connection. Now every database operation, every time you have to or create, read, update, delete from database, you need to open and close your connection, right? So to get that redundancy, to get rid of that redundancy, we will create a function for that. So we can just reuse our open and close connection. Now to do that, let's create a void type function, static void open connection. It could be open lang, or it's up to you, but making sure it's readable for the next programmer that we're going to check your project. Okay, so or for your team also. Now here inside we can call con and then open our connection. Okay, again, next we just have to copy and paste this one, and then the rules for copy and pasting, making sure that you are changing after pasting. You are changing after you paste your code, make it sure that you're changing the codes also, because this will be the worst bug ever. Right, since we have already the open and close connection, let's try to check if our connection is really if we are really connected to our database. Okay, so here in the form 1, once it loads, we want to say, we want to call the open and close connection, open and then the close connection, because if we open some connection, we need to close that after. Okay, so here in between my open and close connection, I want to show message box that show, we will say you are connected. Okay, so if this message will not appear, that means we failed to connect to our database, right? So let's try. So click start, and then you are connected. So that means we are successfully connected to our database. Now, how about you misspell the name of your database? So for example, you put the other way around, wrong spelling, right? So what should be the output? So if we run this one, it will say, okay, so it says unknown database DB pharmacist. Okay, so that means we are really connected to our SAP, because it detects that this DB pharmacist is not being recognized, right? So again, if you have any errors, if the C# provides some debug messages, do not close that immediately. Just read what is the error, okay? Because some of you are closing it right away. You don't know what's the error. Okay? So now, since we are really connected to our database, we can now start. We'll just have to comment this one because this will be annoying in the long run. Okay, so since we are really connected to our database, now we want to create a variable for our MySQL command and data reader. Okay, so public static MySQL command. I'm gonna name this CD, and then this one public static MySQL QL data reader, MySQL data reader. I'm gonna name this DR. Okay, so now since we have our command and data reader and also our connection, we can now create a function that will get the data from our database. Okay, so let's try. So public static, and then this time it's MySQL data reader. Then I'm gonna name this a getting account. Okay, close. Now it says here that we have an error because the return type of our function is not a void. That means the compiler is expecting to have a return. Okay, since our return type is a data reader, we need to return also a variable that is our data reader. Because if we call the CD, it will get some error also. Why? It says here, cannot implicitly convert type from command to data reader. Okay? So make it sure, because some of you will encounter this, I am 100% sure. Okay? So make it sure that the variable you are calling is also equal to the data reader. Makan ka na sir? Papansit, tidak? Papansit. Kagidaman sir. Ato kan Ma'am Giselle. Kagidaman Maki. Maki cute? Yeah. No, the Maki Poji. Ako ang cute. Okay, so make it sure that you are also returning a variable that has a data reader. Okay, so in this case, we have dr. Okay, now, we don't have any error now, but it doesn't mean that we're done. Okay, because this dr right here don't have the command yet, don't have the syntax yet. Okay, so to do that, again, we need to instantiate our cd or command. We post new MySQL command, open close parenthesis, semicolon, and then here inside our parentheses, do not forget to put comma so that you will know what are the parameters that you need to fill in. Okay, here in the left side is our syntax. Here in our right side is our connection. Do we have a connection already? Yes. The name is con. Okay, so we just have to create the con. We just have to pass the con. And then here in the left side is our command. Now, way back to your database system, DBMS, syntaxes, I'm expecting that you already know what are those syntaxes. So here in this case is we want to get all the rows, all the data inside our TB account. So my syntax should be select asterisk. That means all of the data, all of the rows in my TB accounts. So select asterisk from TB account. So that's it. So this is our syntax, and then since we have the command, we can now pass this command into our data reader. Okay, so we have to initialize our data reader as our cd execute reader. So that means this command is being read by our dr, and then every time we call the getting account function from other classes or form, it will return a dr which has this command and this connection. Okay, so select asterisk from TB accounts. So to what database? Here in the con, which has database of DB pharmacy, and need to correct this one. Okay, so that's the link between them. Okay, now since we have the getting account already, we want to go back to our design, and then here in the login function, we will not use the username and password that we have been created a while ago from our previous video. This one, we are no longer going to use this one because this is a local variable position. So we can just delete this one or comment if we don't want that to be deleted. Now here we have an error because username and password is not being it's not found here in our chart because it is being commented. Okay, now here in the username, we will replace this with our database, with our data reader. Now that means we also need data reader here inside our form. Now of course, when we are using data reader, we need to import our MySQL data plan. Okay, so here we need also to create a variable for data reader, then to to be unique variable, we need to name this dr1, very unique. Okay. Now, since we have the dr1 already, so we will just leave it right here. Just leave this for a moment, because we will need this code later. For now, we need to extract the data in our database. Now, what I said earlier, that if we have database operation, we need to open and close our database. Now here in between we want to pass our data reader by calling db operation and then get accounts. So that means, since I call this getting account, it returns a dr that is being passed here in dr1. So that means our dr1 already have a command. Okay, so now in order to get the data, we need to have an iteration. We need to iterate this dr1. If while dr1 is reading some data, while it still reads some data, we will want to get those data by typing in dr1 plus. That means okay, so our code here, the code that we've been created earlier, a while back, we will paste this here inside our while, and then here we need to add another variable, which is boolean, let's say flag. We need to have a flag for this to check if true or false. If we need to check if the username and password are really correct. No? So instead of this one, using this one is just erase that. We will use this later. We will use this later. The else. Okay. So let's just paste it right here and then comment it. We will use that later. Comment this one. Okay. So here, if the username and password has been found, I would like to switch the flag into true. Okay. So flag is equals to true now, and then if that is true, I want to pass the username and password, so we can now use our username and password. So let's just leave that blank because we want to put some username and password there. Now if username and password is true, I will switch the flag into true, and then I will initialize my username, and then I will pass a value which is dr, and then here we have our username. We just have to pass the value of our dr1 right here, and also the password into dr1. Password.
Okay lang i-move yung motor mo.
Alright. So here, if data is being found, the flag will become true, and then it will get the value of that username, pass that into username variable and password variable. Okay, now here, outside the loop, okay, outside the loop, we will have some if else. And comment this one, okay, that if flag is equal to true, if flag is equals to true, it will hide, because it's true, right? It will hide our login and then go to our main form dot show. Okay, but if that is false, that means if the dr don't have any values that you have been imported, the flag will not become true. That means the default value is false. So if the flag is not true, false, it will fall here in our else. It will say the password is incorrect. Okay, now right after right after this true, if our flag is true right here, before we hide the form, we want our flag to be back on its default value false. Okay, in order to prevent a bug. Now let's try this one again. So if we have incorrect details account, we say username password is incorrect. But if we have correct account, Maki123 admin, Maki123 admin, log in, we are now successfully connected to our main phone. Now let's try to log out this one. Let's try another account. Let's have shared emails account. Amy123 Hosai app. Amy123 Hosai app. Log in. Oops. Amy123 Hosai app. Amy123 Hosai. Okay, so there you have there we have our our getting accounts from our database. Let's say for example we want to add another account. Let's say this is Aljon 123, and this would be user password. So let's try to log in Sir Aljon. Okay, log out Aljon, and then user Aljon 123 ngayon, Aljon 123, and then user as password. So there you have it. Multiple accounts. We can get the multiple accounts from database to our C#. Okay, so that's it for now. If you have questions, then comment down below. And then also we have Sir Emil right here. Sir, if you have any thoughts. Yeah, she just had he just had his lunch. Okay, so goodbye. If you have any question, if you have some request topics, just comment down below. And then if you want to help a friend that is struggling about programming, especially C#, you can recommend my channel. And also please, if you have fast internet connection, please or you can download the videos and then share it to your classmates, especially to those who are in remote areas. Okay, so that's it for now. Goodbye, and then shout out to all my students, IT2, IT1, IT3, Good luck to your system development 92 and 93. Okay, so goodbye.